Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm going to be working on the Coleman BT200x again. I actually had a little bit of a mishap out on the last ride. Me and my buddy were out riding. He just bought a new Suron, so we were out ripping some trails and had a little issues with the starter. The cord kept kind of coming out and it wasn't wanting to retract like it usually does. So I ended up actually getting it fixed while we were out riding, and everything was going all right. And then I noticed it was kind of, just no tension on it. It was kind of coming out of the outside of the pull start mechanism, and so I stopped and ended up realizing that it was pretty bound up, and there was just really nothing I was able to do. So ended up coming back home and seeing if I was going to be able to swap on another one that I had from my other bike, and I was just going to take it off and throw it on this other one because I like riding this 224 a little bit more. So once I got back, I realized that there was a lot more damage than I anticipated. So I guess I'll go ahead and show you guys what happened. All right, so after I got back, ended up pulling all this stuff off and realizing that this thing just grenaded itself somehow. And same with the starter, pretty much split the starter in half, broke off, all the springs came out, and pretty much cooked itself. So there was borderline nothing I was going to be able to do to save this thing, unfortunately. So I did go ahead and buy a new one, which showed up today. So we got a new starting cup, which I believe this one's for 212. So it's a little bit shorter, which actually probably works out perfect because I was running the clear blower housing. And because of this actually being a little bit taller, I ended up having to make some spacers. I ended up using some riv nuts and just kind of drilled them out so the bolts would pass through as basically a spacer on the back side. But when this thing basically decided to break itself off, it ended up cracking the housing. So I'll probably end up having to buy a new one of those as well, unfortunately, which kind of sucks because I believe the metal housing is set up for this little bit of a deeper cup, which obviously is now not going to work with this shorter cup here. But hopefully this ends up working out a little bit better anyway. So then I ended up having to buy a new pull starter also. So I ended up just going with a similar black one. Nothing crazy. So we're going to go ahead and get this off here. But as you can see, as it broke off, it decided to gouge it up a little bit. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. I might end up sanding it smooth again a little bit and just at least make it look nice. And then we'll get this all this stuff bolted back up and get her back running. So, all right, so you're gonna need a 13/16 socket. That seems to fit the best. And get this nut off here. All right, we got the nut off there, so I'm gonna try and get this new cup put on just for mock-up purposes. Just gonna end up using the clear housing that broke, so it ended up breaking up at that top tab, but still has the lower two tabs and the top tab, so maybe I'll run it, but either way, I'm gonna order a new one that'll hopefully be here within a few days. So I ended up sanding this down to just a smidge. Obviously, you can still see some of the marks in there, but just kind of got it smooth so it's got a good mating surface to the new cup there. So we'll get this popped on and see how it looks. All right, we got the nut on there. Everything's all kind of snug on there, so we'll pop this cover on and make sure everything lines up real nice. Sweet, looks like everything spins pretty freely. So I'll get it pulled back off. We'll torque down that crank bolt to 54 foot-pounds, I believe, is the required spec for that. And then once I get that torqued down, I'll put the rest of it back on and all right, got it all back together. Like I said, I'm gonna have to end up replacing this cover at some point because that top tab broke off when everything decided to grenade itself. So this is only gonna be temporary, and then I'll end up putting a new cover on there. But as of right now, everything seems to be working good. All right, well, going through some stuff on the mini bike, I realized the exhaust bracket that holds the muffler was broken. So I'm going to attempt to weld this back together so I don't have to make a new one or buy one. Ain't the most perfect weld, but it will do the job I need it to do. Still a little hot there, but got it on both sides there with a little bit of filler, so hopefully that makes it work a little better. All right, next task I gotta do is I gotta replace both these pegs on this other bike. We're gonna go ahead and swap these new pegs on here and get them put on. I ended up just getting these cheap little Amazon ones. I don't really know why I picked these ones, but figured they'd have a little more grip, but they feel just as cheap as the other ones, kind of a cast aluminum or something like that. So who knows how long these will last, but figured it was better than nothing because it kind of sucked riding it a few miles back with no pegs. So let's get these tossed on.
the other one tossed on.
All right, got the new pegs on there. Won't look too bad. Now, the last thing I got to do with this bike is play with the jetting a little bit because it was not running like it was supposed to. It was a little warmer out than usual, but we'll grab the plug here. And the plug was doesn't look horrible, but could possibly be adjusted slightly. But we'll play around with that and get this thing all dialed in.